how did, this new show, which is now a book 4 years ago, how did that start?
Well, I became a news anchor at NPR, eventually hosted All Things Considered on the weekend. And then I left the news side of things to start a new show called the TED Radio Hour, which was a collaboration that I did with TED Talks. And that was just an amazing experience. Meantime, in my head, I always had this idea for how I built this. And here's where it actually came from. So I'll go back in time for a bit. In 2007, I was back at NPR, and I really wanted to be a host of a show. I wanted to be the host of an evening news show, or one of the news shows. And at the time, the executives in charge of deciding who could become a host determined that I did not have the qualities to be a host, that I didn't have the personality to be an NPR host, that I was a war correspondent, and that I didn't have the talent for it. And it was crushing, and at that time, I began to think that maybe this wasn't the right profession for me, that I needed to find something new to do with my life. So I really kind of flailed and searched around, and I very luckily landed on an opportunity to do a fellowship. I applied for a fellowship.
I apologize for a second.
Sure.
Did you understand that was literally a subjective opinion of a couple human beings and quantify that?
No,
right?
Not at the time.
That's why I wanted to jump in right now, because I know somebody's listening right now, and I think you can really help somebody right now, because I think what has absolutely worked for me in happiness has been, when these things happen, that doesn't mean the universe took a poll and said 80% of it was this subjective opinion. Yes. And by the way, a lot of times when you're dynamic or have some skills, you're actually scary to the establishment, which leads to them not seeing it.
I think that's right. And I appreciate that you paused to ask about this, because you're right. It is important. It took me a long time in my life to come to that realization. Now in my mid 40s, it's easier for me to see it that way. But, when I was in my early 30s, 30, 31, it was very hard to see it that way. A respected executive with experience telling you don't have what it takes, it means something, and you believe that. And I wish I could go back and tell my 31-year-old self, hey, it's fine. You got this. Keep on it. In many ways, I needed that kick in the butt, though. I mean, did
you get rejected from any of the colleges that you applied to?
I got rejected from many colleges, and I got rejected from many jobs.
Okay.
And over the course of my career, which I can talk about in depth.
Do you feel like that was easier because that was systematic and you understood that, whereas this one was a little bit more like you thought that person really knew?
Yeah. And it happened a few years later. It happened a few years later. I mean, in 2011, my dream was to be the main host and anchor of All Things Considered during the week. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't picked for that. They decided that I wasn't the right person for that job. And I was crushed. I thought, this is kind of the end of my career. That was only in 2011, but the thing is that those two pivotal moments forced me to kind of reimagine and try to take control over my career. So